Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, joined by fresh faces today, a whole new never-before-seen panel. We've got Jason Howerton, social media guru here at blazeTV. We've got Justin Haskins, who is the executive editor of the Heartland Institute. Thanks for being here, Justin. And we have got Aaron Colin, a writer at theblaze.com. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today.
Thanks.
I can just feel the testosterone in the room. All right, Jason, what's the top story for you?
I want to talk about Venezuela, socialism, and gun control, and the fact that MSNBC loves the Second Amendment.
All right. Wait, I'm sorry. You said MSNBC.
MSNBC loves the Second Amendment.
Huh. All right, Justin.
I want to talk about socialism in Venezuela, which is now collapsing. It has been collapsing for a while, but we're on the verge of something big happening in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
All right, Aaron.
And I want to talk about Kirsten Gillibrand trying to use taxpayer money to funnel cash to campaigns to save her own campaign, which is not doing so well.
Oh my gosh. Wow, what a giant mess we're in. A lot to get into, but first, I want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. So I love working here at The Blaze because I hear stories like Glenn actually was approached by American Financing a long time ago before the crash. And he said, no, I don't believe in doing business with institutions like yours. And this whole big thing is going to spiral out of control. And I'm going to distance myself from all of you and come back to me after all of that happens. And American Financing said, all right, we respect that. And they actually did end up coming back to him, and they said, actually, we're fine. We were not giving out loans that we shouldn't be giving out, and we do business the right way. So we're still here, and we're still doing great. And it was at that point that Glenn finally said, okay, now I trust you. We don't do business with people that we don't trust. And the folks at American Financing, they're good people. They're in it to help you. They're not commission-based, which is huge in that industry. They're not looking for, the kickbacks from the banking companies. They are there. They are salary-based. They're just there to help you. You can go to AmericanFinancing.net, or you can call 800-906-2440 if you are looking to buy, sell, you need a loan. AmericanFinancing.net. All right, Jason, MSNBC, you said, they're all about the guns? Is that what you said?
They're all about the guns. So they've had a change of heart after watching what's happened in Venezuela. So if you're not aware of Venezuela's gun policy, they actually banned guns outright in 2012, right?
Well, that's common sense gun reform.
Common sense gun reform to ban private ownership completely. And then fast forward 7 years, and the government is open firing on citizens in the street who have no access to firearms whatsoever. So MSNBC watched all this play out, and I think it was an accidentally stumbled upon the idea that when the government has all the guns and the people have no guns, they have no power against the government. The government has all the power. And I'm sure once that light bulb clicked, I'm sure a lot of producers were like, oh crap.
Someone just lost a job.
Yeah, somebody's in trouble. So do we have that clip
we do.
To check out?
We do. Let's watch it.
With the help of Russia and other outside forces, Maduro is hanging on.
And not only hanging on, but he appears to still control the military. You have to understand, in Venezuela, gun ownership is not something that is open to everybody. So if the military have the guns, they have the power. And as long as Nicolas Maduro controls the military, he controls the country.
Wow. So it's like this idea that if a bad guy gets into office and the population has been disarmed, it could end up very badly. I mean, it's not like it's happened in history before.
No.
Hitler, Mao,
no one could
USSR. Like, no, it's never happened before. I am being paranoid.
It could never happen here. That's the thing that you don't. It could never happen in America.
Yeah, I got a lot of flack for that on Twitter from the left. You're saying, how are you going to fight the American government, this and that? I'm like, they're so like missing the bigger point of this. It's not to engage in an all-out war. One, it's deterrence. That an armed population is you're not going to open fire like that in Venezuela against people who are carrying firearms, right? Like it's a tragedy waiting to happen, right? It's loss of life. So just having an armed population who values gun rights, it's a huge step up against tyranny, right? And that's what it's about. It's not about engaging in a tit-for-tat war with the U.S. government. Obviously, I don't want that. I don't think we will ever need that, God forbid. But I certainly am not going to be a disarmed victim who can't protect my family. Even if the economy collapses and society kind of breaks down a little bit, I don't want to be a victim. And people like that just think that nothing bad can ever happen in this country because it's America, and it's just not true. Like we're not exempt from the ways of the world. People before us went through greater things, Great Depression, and all these other things. We're not special, and so to be armed is to not be a victim, and that's what I'm about. And so I'm glad MSNBC kind of came around to that, and they by accident.
Oops.
By accident, yeah.
I'm sure they'll stay consistent on that throughout.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, right-wing redneck with your gun talk.
I got a lot of that.
Yeah,
actually.
I'm sure that you did. I'm sure that you did.
Yeah.
The thing that really amazes me, kind of blows my mind about their whole argument is that they sit there and they say, Donald Trump is, a Nazi and a fascist and a sociopath and a big meanie head. And also, we want to give him all of our guns.
But even worse than that, you see this with police. They're always telling us the police are the most racist people on the face of the planet, that we can't trust any of them, and then they want to take away guns from everybody else.
Right.
So you want the people who you think are all a bunch of horrible, tyrannical racists to be the only people with guns? It doesn't make any sense
You know what
at all.
the new talking point should be? Is that we want the policy that is anti-Hitler. I'm for the gun policy that is the opposite of Hitler.
Great.
So
that would be great messaging.
Hitler loved gun confiscation. I'm anti-Hitler. I am for gun.
Yeah,
gun ownership.
they're talking about banning guns. In the same sentence, they say also Donald Trump is Hitler. Aaron,
And what people don't say, and when people attack you for being paranoid about keeping your guns, they don't see that this happens piece by piece. It happens in small increments. It doesn't happen where they just take all the guns in one day. It starts with, well, it's AR-15s, well, then it's something else. And then before you know it, nobody has anything. And so it just happens gradually, and nobody pays attention to it until it's too late.
Well, Venezuela, I saw a report. I haven't read it thoroughly, so I'm not going to be too specific. But they're talking to Venezuelans who severely regret giving up their right to own a gun. Because in the moment, it's like when Venezuela was wealthy and things were going well, it's like, well, we don't really need the guns, right?
Everyone's happy.
Everybody's
What could
happy.
go wrong?
And then under the weight of socialism, it collapses, and then all of a sudden, it's a completely different world. And to not have a gun in that world is a really scary thing.
One of the things that amazes me about that is it wasn't that long ago that we were rounding up Japanese American citizens and German American citizens and throwing them into concentration camps and taking away all of their property. And then I'm supposed to believe that it's impossible that we could live in this society where maybe the government becomes too powerful and they start killing people. And really, that wasn't that far away from that. And if somebody came to my house and said, we're going to take your family away because, they happen to be Japanese American or something, shouldn't people have the ability to defend themselves against that? Should everyone just voluntarily march into a concentration camp? That's, I guess, what they're expecting us to do.
I think they're expecting you to say there's nothing you can do about it, so you might as well not have a gun at all,
guess
right?
so.
And to me, I'm like, that's just not my attitude.
Aaron, you want
It's like on one hand, they play on the prosperity where it's like everything's okay, you don't really need these guns, it's not that dangerous. But then when a mass tragedy happens, that's when they also play on your fear and say this is why you need to give it up. So they're kind of getting you on both sides, playing on the comfort and playing on the fear and the danger that exists out there.
Yeah, you bring up a good point also, Justin, in that, I know there are a lot of younger Americans out here who don't really like, reading or looking at a history book. So they might say, oh, okay, all that bad stuff happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
We don't have a need for, protecting ourselves from a tyrannical government because that was like the 1800s or something. But then it's like, well, turn on the television.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's happening in Venezuela right now, currently. You think that couldn't happen to us? It's not even talking about things that happened so long ago. We're talking about today, right now, in Venezuela, and they were where we were at. Where we're at now, they were at 10 years ago.
One of the consequences of living in the greatest country in the entire history of the universe is that you do get into this mode of will never go away.
Yes.
But just a brief look at history. All countries rise and all countries fall, period. Like, we are not the forever world power, whether that's 300 years from now, 100, 1,000, like, eventually America will not be the way we know it today. And once that day comes, so I'm not fighting for my right to fight the government with my guns, right? I don't want to do that. I don't anticipate having to do that. I'm thinking,
But I will if I have to.
But I will if I have to. And then I'm thinking of my son's son, maybe my son's grandsons, who maybe might be in a situation that's not as awesome as the one that we're currently living in America. Yeah. So you got to think big picture, not little tiny.
Right.
Vision.
Yeah. Justin, I do want to get into what is happening in Venezuela right now, and how did they get to this point?
Oh, I mean, if you go back 20 years, Venezuela is one of the most successful countries in the world per capita. I mean, one of the most successful, wealthiest countries in the world, the wealthiest country in South America at one point in time. And now, because of their socialist policies, they are descending into chaos. I mean, they've already descended into chaos at this point.
Can you tell me, because the Socialist Party of America, they like to troll me on, when I'm on Twitter, and they always say it's not real socialism. Can you kind of break that down to me?
Sure. Yeah, it definitely is real socialism. The way things worked out, it's really simple. Venezuela for a very long time was building up all sorts of social programs in the country. The people were becoming very dependent on the government, and they were able to pay for it because they have massive oil reserves, like Saudi Arabia style oil reserves. So they were paying for it with all of these oil revenues. So that was all the way up until Nicolas Maduro took over. Once Nicolas Maduro took over, the oil prices collapsed. And when they collapsed, they had to make a choice. Do we cut back on all of our government programs because now we can't pay for it anymore? Oil revenue is running out. Or do we just double down on it and continue going forward and print the money? That's what they did. And when they started printing money, they realized, well, we need to control the economy in other ways too. We've got to be able to manage it. And so they put into place all of these socialistic policies. They started building massive amounts of infrastructure and buildings and things, basically buying off people for votes, even though they had no way to pay for it. And this is kind of what we're doing here in the United States. I mean, last I checked, we have $22 trillion of debt. And we have absolutely no plans on narrowing that gap. We're going to have $1 trillion deficit probably this upcoming year. Who's talking about fixing that? No one. And the opposite is happening. The Democrats are saying, hey, let's spend more money. Let's have single-payer health care. Let's have the Green New Deal. Let's do all of these policies that are going to drive us even deeper into debt. And how are we going to pay for it? Just print money.
It just goes to the blindness that, again, we talked about, that prosperity can bring to people like us in America, where we don't see ourselves in Venezuela. We don't see that the things that happen there can happen here. We think, for whatever reason, that we're immune to that, even though when you really dig into it, humans are humans, governments are governments. The same things can happen over time if you let them.
Yeah, and to kind of build on that, I think that we also think we do think we're immune to it. We also think that we have it hard because we don't see it from their perspective, right? Like we don't travel to Venezuela for vacations, right? So we're not actually seeing it firsthand, and so we live in this bubble where we think that the feminists think that they don't get free tampons and they have to pay more for their razors, their lady razors, and we are somehow the model of oppression. And it's just like they just have no idea, because we are so great, this country is so great, we have no baseline for what it really is to actually suffer and be oppressed. And I do think that is a big part of it also.
And that's why it's important to think about how this is covered in the media. And if it's covered in a way to where we look at them and like, that's other people, that's another thing, versus covering in a way to where you say, these are people that are going through something that we have to be aware of. The media coverage shapes how people will think about it and will shape how people react to it, how people vote, how people view policies.
And unfortunately, I think they take advantage of that far too often. Back in a minute. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, realestateagentsitrust.com. So it turns out that the guy that's smiling at you like this on the giant billboard is not actually the person who probably knows the most about your area when you're looking for a new home. And I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but when you buy a house, that's probably going to be like the biggest investment you ever make in your life. No pressure. So you want to make sure that you are getting the right real estate agent. So don't go with the billboard guy. Instead, Glenn has a team. And his team actually vets all of these real estate agents all across the country. I think they've got like over 1,200 agents. So they have one where you're located, and they vet them to make sure they do this full time. They are the experts in the area. They are going to be the ones who are going to get you the best deal. So especially if you are looking to travel across the country, you have no idea, like, what's the suburb for me? Where are the good family areas located? You have no idea because you don't have the experience, right? So let Real Estate Agents I Trust help you. Go to realestateagentsitrust.com if you are in the market to buy or sell your house, and they will help you. All right, Aaron. Gillibrand. Oh,
Yes.
man, she is just doing everything she can to stay relevant.
She's struggling.
Is she the one who did the beer pong?
She was trying to fundraise playing beer pong.
So wait, so hold on. I know you've got a story here about her, but she was also the one who was weightlifting too, right?
That's right.
Oh my.
She's lit, as the kids
She
say.
is lit.
Yes.
Oh, and of course we also know she is speaking at restaurants where people are just trying to get them some ranch.
That's true.
Just trying to get them
I
some
think
ranch.
she also kicked off her campaign at Trump Tower. That's not an attention-seeking.
Did she really?
I believe so.
Oh gosh, Gillibrand. All right, what's she doing now?
Well, right now she is trying to propose a policy that would make voters eligible for up to $600 per election cycle as a voucher to donate to a campaign of their choice in the House, the Senate, and the presidential elections.
What is she calling it?
Democracy dollars. She is going to give out democracy dollars.
If
Go ahead.
possible, somebody in the control room can pull up my tweet about Shroot Bucks and this and this amazing democracy dollar stunt. I just can't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You pull it up. Pull it up and read it to us. Okay,
And
so
so,
keep going,
and so
Aaron.
her idea is to take big money out of politics. Candidates would only be eligible to receive this money if they say we're not going to take any donations above $200, as opposed to the normal max of $2,800. So candidates would have to say, in order to access this money, I'm only going to take these relatively small donations. And so that's her big idea, to keep big money out of politics. And what I thought was funny about it was that, President Trump's fundraising numbers recently came out, and it turns out that about 99% of his donations were $200 or less. So it seems like, he's already kind of working without the democracy dollars. I think he's doing okay. So I'm not sure
I can't even take it seriously.
I'm not sure if she's solving a real problem here or not, but it's at the taxpayers' expense. And you talked about the deficit and spending all this extra money, and she's just trying to spend more of our money.
What's interesting about this is that they're calling it democracy dollars, but the top 25% of income earners pay 85% of the tax revenue. So basically, you're just forcing rich people to give money to Democrats. That's pretty much
People
the
that
plan.
they very clearly are not voting.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, that's really astounding. Then they're calling it democracy, as if there's some sort of choice.
Right.
There's no choice. You're giving that money to somebody else who has a choice to how to spend your money. I mean, that's insane.
Did you find it, Jason?
I did, yeah. So if you don't know this amazing Office episode where Dwight comes up with this idea to give out Shroot Bucks to everybody in the office. And it pretty much mirrors this perfectly. So I put those two side by side. The quote from the show is, "What's the exchange rate of Stanley nickels to Shroot Bucks? Same as the ratio of unicorns to leprechauns," which is basically the same exact idea from Democrats, that they just pull, they think we just have unlimited money that just appears at it, which I guess technically
you
we do.
print it.
That's what they print it.
More,
Just
Jason.
print more money, and then nothing ever happens. There's never any consequences to that. I wish I had that same kind of ability in my own household.
And from a priorities aspect, you think, if you're a candidate, is this your main policy? Is this what you want to prioritize? Is what we're going to spend billions of dollars on? I think if a quarter of eligible voters use their $600, it would end up costing something like $35 billion.
Isn't this
in
more of an
election
indictment
cycle.
on the media, though? Like, all they're trying to do is to get a headline, right? Like, we're not focused on the issues. Like, we're not actually having, like, what I feel like they should have to do, every candidate, is go on something like the Joe Rogan podcast and like have a 3-hour conversation on policy. Like don't give me your shootbox. Don't give me these talking points.
Your $5 trillion climate change.
Exactly. I don't want your $93 trillion Green New Deal nonsense. Like, let's talk about policy and how you're going to make America better. But instead, this is what we do, just these one-off things just to get a quick headline to try to rise up in the polls. And I think that's more of an indictment on the media than anything else.
Well, and I will say credit where credit is due. Andrew Yang has
True.
done that, right?
Absolutely.
He went on with Ben Shapiro. And I will say, Bernie hasn't gone on a podcast like that, but he did do a town hall with Fox News, and he is, like it or not, he is an ideologue. He does have specific policies. I mean, they're crazy.
This is a
but he does at
perfect
least
time
have them.
to call out Eric Swalwell, who he slid into my DMs. And
Did he?
He did. Late at night too, by the way.
Hey.
He slid into my DMs to basically mock me. He said, "Thanks for following me and responding to all my tweets. God bless," like in a very dismissive way. One, I don't follow him, so that was kind of a missed opportunity. But I responded to him and I said, "Okay, you know what? If you want to have a substantive gun debate on blazeTV, I'm sure they wouldn't mind to give us some airtime." I cleared it with my boss and said, "If he says yes, are we good?" Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No response. No, because it's not what he's interested in. He's interested in the quick, let me try to make Huffington Post for 5 minutes about, dunking on a conservative guy.
He's got to work hard to remind people he's running for president.
Exactly.
That's
true.
Well, and
Very
also,
easy.
I don't know if you guys know this, but he is a country music listener.
Okay, country music listener,
that out.
come to Texas
So-
and debate me on guns if you're really, so proud of your stance of gun confiscation that you call a gun buyback program. But he won't. He won't do it. He'll tweet. He'll do whatever he does to try to get some attention, but he won't actually dig into the issue because it's a losing issue for him.
I think one of the most important things about this is it points out just how easy it is to be a Democrat. Like, it's so easy to be. All you have to do is come up with a plan. It doesn't even have to make sense.
And not even like a specific plan. Just a general,
Just a general
cute
plan.
name.
Right.
A cute
Come up
title.
with a slogan, a cute title, maybe a bill name with an acronym in it or something, and then you have no way to pay for it. Doesn't even necessarily make sense. Sometimes it's not even internally consistent, and you just throw it out there.
And if it backfires, then conservative pounce. and you get cover for wanting to regulate cow farts or whatever you're trying to do. You don't even have to really answer for your bad ideas.
Never. In fact, you're rewarded for it, as you said, with media headlines, with Huffington Post backing you, with New York Times saying, "Oh well, fact check, Donald Trump didn't get the message quite right," and now all of a sudden it's, well, maybe there's some half truth to it. It's just totally insane.
We haven't even gotten started yet. We're not even at the debates yet.
Oh, okay. Now I'm depressed. Back in a minute. That is actually good. I don't know if it's depressing or exciting. It just so happens that all of us lovely people sitting around this table are going to also be a part of a really big event tonight. It is called Socialism, a Warning from the Dead, and it is at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. It'll be on blazeTV Live. It's going to be on YouTube Live. It's going to be for free. Make sure to watch it. Here's a sneak peek.
Socialism is on the rise. Despite being responsible for the deaths of over 100 million people. The full collapse of the Soviet Union, the crumbling nations of North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, the totalitarian police state of China. Socialists are coming out of the shadows. They're claiming virtue, moral superiority. It's already infiltrated our government. It's dismantled our values, brick by devastating brick. I talk to people all the time. They'll say, "Oh, we don't have anything to worry about. It can't happen here. The Constitution will save us." We found a document that was smuggled into the United States through the Iron Curtain in 1960. My researchers found it again. It's the blueprint of how to legally and within the framework of our own system take over a country and flip it. They tell me what's wrong. We see it for what it is. The secrets A roadmap to socialism. A warning from the dead.